give his whole 20-minute speech again and go from there. But really briefly, Chief Roberto Arredondo was born in Waxahachie or Waxahachie. I was corrected on that yesterday. Wax?
Waxahachie.
Somebody in the audience said it was Wakes.
No, wax.
Exactly. Waxahachie, Texas. Chief Arredondo entered the United States Army after high school, where he served honorably for 4 years. He joined the Dallas Police Department on June 7, 1996, where he rose through the ranks to major. He served as the division commander of the Northeast Patrol Division prior to retiring on November 27, 2020, after serving over 23 years with the Dallas Police Department. Chief Arredondo has served in patrol, the gang unit, as a detective in the missing persons and homicide units, and as a supervisor in communications, robbery, homicide, and traffic units. Chief Arredondo holds a Bachelor of Arts and Science degree in Criminal Justice Administration from Tarleton State University, and is currently working towards a master's degree in Public Affairs from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. He is a graduate of the Police Executive Research Forum Senior Management Institute for Police and the Caruth Police Institute Leadership Series, and he's a member of several professional associations as well. Of course, one of the things that he's most proud of and was made very evident yesterday, which I know we greatly appreciated, was the love he has for his family. He is a proud father of two incredible daughters, Janelle and Kate, and dedicated husband to his beautiful and always supportive wife, Angela. And so with that, I want to ask him to step up.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Yesterday was very touching and very emotional for me because I realized my lifelong dream of being the chief of police somewhere. And about 10 years ago, I'll share that I was driving through South Texas, and I was coming back from a training that I had attended in Corpus Christi. And I drove through Victoria. It was maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and I thought, man, that'd be a great city to be chief of police at. And so when the opening came about, I thought, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna put my name in the hat. And I prayed, and I said, Lord, send me where you need me, whether it be Dallas or Victoria. And when I got the call from the city manager, that was a sign that said the Lord needs me in Victoria. So I was pleased to accept the position, and I got to just reiterate how excited I am to be here. All the research I've done on the city, the police department, the other city departments, and I got to tell you also that I was a finalist for another city, and the way this city came out as far as welcoming me to just the process, just being a possibility. This city put its best foot forward, and it showed. And when I talked to my mentors about it, they said, you have to keep that in mind, that this city is a professional city. It's put its best foot forward to welcome you just to the city to be part of the process. That's a sign for the future. So again, I was very pleased at the welcome yesterday, considering everything we've been through as a country in this pandemic and things, the fact that you guys were willing to put that on for me and my family. And my mother was so proud, and everybody wants to make their mother proud, right? So that was very, very touching for her and the rest of my family. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I mentioned at the ceremony, I look forward to building lasting relationships with each of you, and I'm here to help. And please let me know how I can help, because that's what I want to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Welcome aboard, Chief.
Thank you.
Now the hard part starts for him, right? That was the easy part. All right. Next up, I do want to ask Mike Etienne to provide a more detailed update on the Southside cleanup. Dr. Young had requested some details. I was able to provide some elements, but it really wasn't as thorough as what you'll get tonight.
Thank you, Jesus, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So today I want to take a few minutes just to provide you the results of the Southside neighborhood cleanup. As you know, this event was held several Saturdays ago, on November 14 specifically, and it was held in partnership with the Southside Community Coalition. And the goal of this event, Mayor and Council, was to clean up and beautify the area and begin the concerted effort to revitalize the south side of Victoria. So here are the results, and I have them on the screen for you. So we had nearly 100 volunteers. They all participated in the cleanup, and we helped 20 families remove bulky items from their houses and from their yards. We did find that some residents were elderly and they needed help with moving stuff to the curb. So the volunteers did that for 20 households. We found out as well that the streets in the south side need help/improvements. So our Public Works Department, led by Ken Gill, filled 30 potholes, repaired 18 sidewalks, cleaned 10,571 linear feet of curb, and cleaned 3 drainage inlets. We did learn that many of the inlets on the south side are filled with debris, leaves, which essentially could lead to flooding. So staff spent time to clean 3 inlets and will continue to clean the drainage inlets on the south side. The fire department installed 100+ smoke detectors and administered 1 flu shot. The police department distributed porch lights or light bulbs to 10 households. That's to increase public safety. The library department gave out 1 library card and also passed out flyers to let people know how to sign up for library cards. Our Parks Department, along with the volunteers, cleaned up Hopkins Park, which was very important. A longstanding issue on the south side is the presence of loose dogs and pets. So we partnered with the Animal Control Division of the county, and they, during the event, impounded 4 loose dogs, gave 13 verbal warnings, and issued 2 citations. And finally, our Solid Waste Department, Environmental Services, led by Darrell Elisak, picked up 517 cubic yards, not years, yards, or 31.86 tons of bulky waste/trash. So that's 35 tons of bulky waste picked up during that time. Next slide, please. So you know the old adage that it takes a village to revitalize a neighborhood, and it really does. I've spent many years revitalizing neighborhoods in San Antonio, and it does take a village. So we had lots of volunteers participated, so I want to thank them, and they are on the screen. We had the Southside Coalition, and that's led by Bethany Castro, Justin Urbano, and Kayla and Jody Sandoval. Be Well Victoria, Victoria East high school baseball team. In fact, the entire baseball team was there, about 28 kids and their coach there helping to clean up. The United Way, the county health department, city staff, we had over 5 or 6 different departments there helping. And of course, city council, specifically the mayor was there picking up trash in my group. Councilwoman Jen Scott was there, as well as
I got the baseball team.
you get the baseball team, and Dr. Young as well. But all of you supported. I know all of you wanted to be there from a council perspective, but you couldn't be there because it was a Saturday. But we appreciate the support, Councilman Bucknight and Councilman Solis, for the South Side, because we want to work together to revitalize our neighborhoods. Now, it's not just the South Side, because we realize that we have older neighborhoods throughout the city. So our intent is to start on the south side and then move to other neighborhoods throughout the city. So our next stop is Queen City in the Crestwood neighborhood as well. So we want to revitalize our older neighborhoods because, again, it's an economic development part when it comes to revitalizing neighborhoods. Because if we want to be a destination city, that we say all the time, that's what we want to be, a destination city, every neighborhood must thrive and every neighborhood must prosper. So that's what we intend to do. with this effort with this targeted revitalization. And once again, I just want to thank the council and of course our city manager who was there picking up trash as well. So we appreciate all of you and all the citizens who volunteered to help with this cleanup effort.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Before we move on to the next announcement, I do want to briefly mention that Dr. Young has joined us through Zoom. And so he is participating in the meeting now on Zoom.
I am. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike, for the update.
You got it. Thank you. Next up, I want to ask Ashley Strevel to come up and provide an update related to Citizens Academy.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, city manager. Well, I'm excited, and I'm going to raise this up a little bit. I'm excited to announce to you all that Citizens Academy is back. Last year we had to postpone, or this year we had to postpone it due to the 2020 census, which happens every 10 years, as you know. So it took a lot of staff and resources, but now we're bringing it back in 2021. And so applications are now being accepted. They can apply at victoriatx.gov/Citizens Academy. The deadline to apply is December 16th. And this upcoming year, it will be hosted from January 11th through March 14th. And it'll be held every Thursday from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We did a survey from past participants and asked their advice and their input. You know, what are some of the pros, some of the cons that you guys took from the Academy in the past? What can we do this year to not only make it safe, socially distanced, but also more engaging? And so we took a lot of that feedback and made a couple of tweaks, but overall, we got a lot of good feedback. It's been such a highly anticipated and very appreciated event, and I'm honored to be able to be a part of it this upcoming year. And I hope that you can all help us get that community involvement and input coming up. Some of the topics that we'll touch on are economic development, of course. You know, what Mike was just mentioning is a pretty cool deal that we've got going on. And so there's a lot of city initiatives that we want to cover and that we want to inform our community about. I know that there's a lot of community members who know and stay informed, but this is such a key opportunity for us to share that directly with residents. And so we have a lot of staff involved. It's definitely a collaborative teamwork effort, and we'll have some local partnerships as well who will come and present. And we just look forward to hosting it. Again, that deadline is December 16th. Applications are open now. You can apply online at victoriatx.gov/Citizens Academy. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Ashley. And lastly, I just want to remind council that we do have a council workshop coming up this upcoming Tuesday at 4 p.m. That'll take place at the community center, where we do plan on addressing the 2035 action agenda that we initiated the last workshop that we had. We also plan on re-educating council on our financial status and our debt capacity. Many of you are familiar with the fact that there's going to be some opportunities coming up in the next 4 years, and so we'll address that. And we'll also provide an update on our new CIP process. And so we look forward to having that conversation with you next week. With that, Mayor, those are all the announcements we have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. I don't believe there's any public or employee recognitions tonight and no proclamations. So we'll move on into items from council. Are there any items from council this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to citizens' communication. As a reminder, citizens' communication may be done either in person or through video conference. We would encourage anyone who has had recent exposure to COVID-19 or those maybe at high-risk population group to make use of the video conference options. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes in duration and will be received by audio only. There will not be an opportunity to provide any presentation or visual materials either in person or via teleconference. Please remember to silence any cell phones, televisions, or other background noise so that we can clearly hear your comments. It is generally the practice of City Council not to respond to comments made during this time, but city staff will be available to follow up as necessary. I do have one comment card this evening. Are there any more? If not, I'll begin with Mr. Terrell. Is Mr. Terrell here?
How you doing? Albert Terrell.
Terrell, how are you this evening?
Okay, I have some paperwork need to be seen. Okay, what I've reached out on this property here, I have got a roofing company and a remodeling company. What I want to do is to partially demolish the back part of this house. The part that was on there this used to be a barracks, Army barracks, and that back part that's damaged is a back porch. It was closed in to make the room bigger, and that's what's deteriorating. It used to be a two-car garage there. I took out a permit to repair the garage to make it safe, and less than a week before I got back down here, somebody demolished it. The city had it demolished. So when they demolished that, they left the outside wall, which used to be the inside wall, was exposed. It didn't have any outside interior on it. So at that time, they opened the roof where the garage was hooked, so that part of the house got damaged, and that's the part that's deteriorated inside the house, which was a back porch originally. So I want to tear that off, and I reached out to Hercules, and to come check the foundation. They found nothing wrong with the foundation. The roofing company that I have right here found nothing wrong. They want to replace the rafters on there, and they gave me a bid and asked me to put a new roof on there. And I would like to be able to restore that house and tear off that back part that looks real bad, because that wasn't a porch. It's not part of the original structure of the house. And the pictures that I have here, some pictures on the inside of the house showing that the rest of the house isn't like the part that's showing that's deteriorated. That part is exposed to the weather. And I have pictures here showing that the piers and all that stuff in the house is not unstable, where it's falling down and it cannot be. I cannot remodel the inside or put a roof on top of the house. And some of that problem is due to the damaged part that happens due to the fact that the garage is moved off. And I want to move all that off. And I done had Hercules come out there, like I said, a foundation company. I done had roofing company come out there, ARP, and then walk through the house and check the rafters. They're saying that the house is steady enough to put a roof on there and rebuild all that. And that's what I would like to do. And also would make everything safe before I get started. Right now, the house is still boarded up. Nobody can get in. And I would like the city to allow me to restore that house and not tear it down.
Mr. Terrell, I think this matter is on further down the agenda tonight and will be discussed.
Okay.
And so we will take your comments under advisement and
Okay.
then address it at that time, if you don't.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there any further citizens' communication? Mr. Foote, is there anyone online? Seeing none, we will move on into items with public hearings. Mr. Goosh?
I'm going to
We're
read
actually,
this.
we're actually going to, if it's okay with council, we're going to continue allowing our city secretary to read our agenda items. We thought she did an excellent job last time, and so we want to continue allowing her the opportunity to do that, if you don't mind.
As long as it's not me, you'll have no complaints.
Thank you. Item C1 is a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant 2015 through 2019 Consolidated Plan and 2019 Annual Action Plan substantial amendments for CARES Act funding and the 2020 Annual Action Plan minor amendment.
Ms. Fulgham, do you
evening.
have a
So before
presentation?
I have a quick presentation, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our new community development planner, Vanessa Villafranca Cummins. She's been with us for a few months, and unfortunately, we're just now having the ability to introduce her to y'all. But we're so thankful to have her on board, especially with all of this CARES Act funding that has come through. We've been really busy. It's been the year of CDBG. So I just wanted to take a minute to introduce her to y'all.
Hello.
She also has a quick handout she's going to give y'all that I forgot to lie on the dais earlier, and it just is an overview of all of the CARES Act funding. And also, before I get started, I also want to take the opportunity to thank Celeste Menchaca, our previous community development planner. She's not here tonight physically, but she's on Zoom. She has been really helpful in kind of transitioning and training Vanessa, as well as our planning administrator, Maggie Bergeron. With this being a year for a new consolidated plan and a new analysis of impediments, and then, of course, receiving the $800,000 in CARES Act funds, it is definitely been a year of CDBG, and so I just really want to thank them because they have done a tremendous job. So with that tonight, I have a major amendment for our 2015 to 2019 consolidated plan, plus major substantial amendments in the 2019 annual action plan. If you will remember, HUD has provided guidance that all of the CARES Act funding should be programmed into our 2019 plan, which then corresponds with our 2015 to 2019 CON plan. So even though we've adopted a new CON plan, that is actually for our regular entitlement funds moving forward, and all of the CARES Act funds are, per direction by HUD, are to be programmed into our 2019 annual action plan. So we have those two amendments. I also want to provide council an update on our rental assistance and mortgage assistance program, and then we have a small minor amendment to report on our 2020 annual action plan. So first I will go over the CON plan and the annual action plan that's related to the CARES Act funding. So our consolidated plan amendments are substantial amendments that either create a new program or is a substantial increase in funding over $100,000. So we have two substantial amendments in our CON plan tonight, which is the identification assistance program for homeless and low to moderate income individuals that I'll explain more fully as I get into the annual action plan, and then substantially adding over $100,000 to our eviction foreclosure prevention program. And then we, of course, are increasing the budget on the other activities that are corresponding. So I'll go into the details in our annual action plan. So just a reminder that these funds are an application-based process. So we did a call for applications or call for public service facility partners and advertised that in October. We held a pre-application workshop that was mandatory on October 26th. And then the applications were accepted between October 26th with the deadline of being November 6th. And then tonight we are presenting our funding recommendations based off of those applications to y'all for approval. So the second round of CARES Act funding that we are recommending is to budget $21,500 for a part-time temporary staff, CDBG staff member to help us with income determinations. I went ahead and included the flu shot, although you amended that previously last month. But out of the second round, we allocated an additional $3,300. In the Development Services Department, we are upping our rental and mortgage assistance program by $144,392. We have seen overwhelming success on that project, and there's a huge need. Meals on Wheels for the actual meal delivery with the senior center, they are requesting $84,000 in funds. The Boys and Girls Club is extending their after-school care for essential workers, and we're recommending $15,000. YMCA is also doing a scholarship program for essential child care for essential workers, and are requesting $42,000. Community Action Committee, their Meals on Wheels program is requesting a new delivery vehicle at $22,790. And then Midcoast Family Services in the Victoria Area Homeless Coalition is requesting $15,000 to help fund getting birth certificates and ID cards for folks that need those identification resources to apply for other COVID assistance. Those were the public service activities. The 2019 CARES Act public facility projects that we are recommending is granting the food bank an additional $75,000 for their expansion project. The amount of food that they have been passing out due to COVID is really quite astounding. The Boys and Girls Club of Victoria is needing additional funds to clean the facility and also expanding into a new room, and so that would be 10,000 additional funds granted to them. VCAM, Victoria Christian Assistance Ministry, is requesting parking lot improvements for to help improve their curbside pickup that they have implemented due to COVID-19. And then the Meals on Wheels Victoria Senior Center is requesting $25,000 for a dining room remodel to help with social distancing and put safety measures in place because of COVID-19. There are 2 applications that we are not recommending funding. One of that is the United Way for a Crossroad Resource Center staff, for staffing. And while that is a very worthwhile project, the program is really just too new. It actually hasn't completely been developed, and we have a timeliness issue in spending these COVID funds, and so we had a lot of concerns and spoke to them about that and are not recommending funding their request. And then the YMCA also requested pool upgrades, and we cannot tie that to a national objective or the preparation, response, or prevention of COVID-19. And so we are not recommending funding the pool portion, although we did recommend funding their scholarship program. So I'll take a pause if there's any questions on the COVID funding. I also, as mentioned, Vanessa passed out a kind of overview of what we granted in round 1, what we're recommending granting in round 2, and give you council a complete summary of all of the $832,139 that we received in CARES Act funding.
Julie, if you don't mind, I just want to briefly add, and I know you've mentioned this, but the organizations that receive funding have to go through a process. They have to apply, they have to take initiative, they have to take the time to go through this process. And so I think it's important for council to be reminded of that, and also the public that, you know, this isn't just something that staff just wakes up one day and decides, you know, this is how we're going to split the funds. There's a high level of responsibility on the different nonprofit agencies around town to take it upon themselves to respond to these call outs when we put them out for funding. And so I just think it's important that people be reminded of that.
And that's a good point. We do brief council on all applications we received. So as the previous slide shows, those are the applications we received that we are recommending, and then this slide shows the application we received that we are not recommending. So whatever applications we receive, we make sure council knows that about all of the applications, even the ones that we're not recommending.
Julie, do we have a deadline as to when we need to spend all the $476,000?
Yes, so January of 2022 is the current HUD deadline, but as the pandemic continues, I feel like HUD guidelines and directions are changing pretty rapidly. So that may get extended, and it wouldn't surprise me if it does. But currently it's January of 2022. So I also wanted to take the time to brief council, since we are requesting such a huge increase in our rental and mortgage assistance program. We were hesitant in the beginning on the first round to use these funds for this sort of program because other community service providers such as Midcoast and Community Action Agency were also receiving federal funds for mortgage and rental assistance programs. And there's a penalty for duplication of benefits. But again, HUD continues to just provide us with updates and guidance, and we realized that we could actually help those making between the 51 to 80% average median income, and so that's where we originally started our program. Since then, there's been even more guidance provided, and we actually are granting these funds to the landlords. If there is to be found a duplication of services, then we risk the having to recapture those funds. And of course, recapturing funds for someone that you're helping that can't make rent is probably impossible, and so that's why we were so hesitant. But now with our program being built that we are paying directly to the landlords, and they have to certify that they are not receiving any additional funds for that rent, we are confident that we will not have a duplication of benefits, and if there does run the risk of recapture, we're at least able to recapture from someone that has an income-producing asset. So we've worked through all of those guidelines. So the rental and mortgage assistance program is provided to the households generally making the 51 to 80. We do want to expand it in our program guidelines for 30 to 80% AMI, but again, Midcoast and CAC are really going to help the bulk of those. And so we really internally are going to be setting that benchmark at 45% because we're finding people just slightly under our 51%. Our pre-qualification survey opened to the public on October 19th, and immediately, almost overnight, we had 400 surveys that were taken. Now, out of that pre-qualification survey, we actually only had about 200 that met the pre-qualification criteria, and so we sent out the applications to 200. We did find people were changing. We had a lot of duplicate answers to make sure that the number of people in the household with the income matched up. And we did find some surveys that seemed to be working the system to make it through to the end. And so out of those applications that were sent, we didn't receive quite as many back, but we continue to receive a lot. And so once we receive an application back, we have to do an income determination meeting where they provide all of their income to make sure that they're, of course, meeting the federal requirements. And so we have, to date, helped 13 households and already spent our original $40,000 allotment. So a household can qualify up to $4,500 in assistance. Their rent has to be within fair market rent, and then we can help them up to 6 months, depending on the circumstances. And again, we are making those payments directly to a landlord or a mortgage holder. Out of the 13, actually 12 were rentals, and we've so far only helped one person with a mortgage. So tonight, we're of course asking for that additional allocation of $184,900. I also wanted to let council know that just today, we submitted a intent to apply for a TDHCA program that I will be bringing back the full application for council to authorize our submittal at the next meeting to hopefully receive another $174,000 from TDHCA for this rental and mortgage assistance. The state received a pot of CARES Act funds, and then TDHCA has opened up a program to funnel that through to cities. So since we have an existing program, we're eligible to apply. And so you will be seeing that application or that authorization to apply at the next council meeting. So hopefully we'll have another $175,000 in addition to this $184,000. So our public comment period, which has been shortened due to COVID-19, was from November 26th and then concludes tonight with the public hearing after I get finished speaking. And then the amendments will be submitted to HUD on or before December 11th. And that's for those dates are for both our comp plan amendment as well as the annual action plan. I also have one minor amendment to report on for our 2020 annual action plan. HUD had an error in their formula calculation, and so they notified us that we were over awarded in our entitlement grant by $92. So we have reduced our administration budget by $92 so that we're not impacting any of our grantees. And we have that already submitted to HUD, and it's just a minor amendment to report to council.
Goldgrim, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is the average median income?
It's going to depend on your household size. So there's a chart on our website, and I can send that to you. But it depends on how many people you have in your household as to how much you qualify. And there's different levels of 30%, 50%, and 80%, and depending on different types of assistance that we can help with.
Should have guessed since it was a federal program, it wasn't an easy answer.
I mean, I think Mike might know.
Yes.
I have a number that I'm going to say it, and he's going to correct, 68?
That's correct.
Yeah, Victoria, but as far as when we're talking about assistance and the numbers we go off of, it's.
I was right.
Sorry. I thought you were asking about our programs. It is dependent upon your household size.
I think it appears y'all go through a pretty rigorous process to vet all of the applications to make sure that the ones that are awarded are truly legitimate.
Yes, since it is federal funds, and this is really the barrier we find whenever we have nonprofits seeking to apply for these funds, is because they are federal funds, the paperwork burden is pretty substantial because the federal government wants to make sure that those funds are going to the individuals that they're required to help, the LMI individuals. And so income determinations are pretty extensive, where we have to look at people's 3 months of their bank accounts and pay stubs and all sorts of income. And so it is, you're right, it is very substantial.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Ms. Fulgham?
And we can email council more specific information on the median household income and the information that Julie suggested. So we'll happy to distribute that via email this week to confirm our numbers, so don't quote us.
If y'all want to see the actual application, it has it all on there. So a household of 2 people, the lowest they can have is 21,440 up to 44,750. So that's a household for 2. So if they're below the 22,000, they're not part of, they don't qualify for the program. We're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, that would be the information that we would need, what the max and the min is for somebody to be able to qualify for this program. That would be more
Yes.
important than, I think,
We'll
than
get
the
that to you.
average.
And you said that's on the website. Could you tell us where or what the link is?
I think it's actually victoriatx.gov/COVID assist.
COVID assist?
COVID
That's
assist.
the survey, and it
Yeah.
does actually
Okay.
have it on there, yes.
Any more questions for Ms. Fulgham? Okay, thank you very much. With that, I'll open a public hearing on this matter. Anyone who wishes to speak, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on item C1. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. With that, we'll move on into the consent agenda, please.
Item D1 on the consent agenda is the adoption of the minutes of the November 17th City Council meeting. Item D2 is an ordinance amending the 2020-2021 budget of the City of Victoria and carrying forward encumbrances outstanding at September 30th, 2020. And item D3 is a resolution approving the annual purchase of 25 sets of structural firefighting coats and pants, PPE, for the Victoria Fire Department from MES Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $73,550.
Move we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion is set and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now move on to action items, please.
Item E1 is a resolution hearing the appeal of a Building and Standards Commission demolition order for 2106 Dudley.
Good evening. So tonight, council is considering an appeal of the November 10th Building and Standards Commission order to demolish the structure located at 2106 Dudley. And I have a few pictures that I think illustrate why the commission issued that order. So as you can see, there's serious deterioration. Of essentially all members or systems of the house. So this is that rear addition what you heard about during citizens communication. But the deterioration goes beyond the addition. Staff does recommend that council uphold the order and recommend denying the appeal and so that demolition of the structure can move forward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just for clarification, demolition of the structure, that would leave the slab in place or would it take the slab out also?
I believe it's a pier and beam house, so it probably take all of it. Take the
Okay,
entire site would be cleaned.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we get a motion on this particular item, and I don't want to interrupt questions, we obviously can have more questions from council if you'd like. But I just wanted to clarify that the resolution that's in the packet is drafted to deny the appeal and uphold the order from the Building and Standards Commission. That was the recommendation of staff, as you just heard Ms. Fulgham say. And so I wanted to make sure that you're aware that if you make a motion and approve the resolution as presented, you are denying the appeal and upholding the previous order. If you would like to make changes to the previous order, then you'll need to make an amendment to the resolution that was written.
I have some questions. Do you want to put a motion on the floor first?
I think you can ask it.
Okay, Ms. Fulgham,
Informational.
in the inspection of the building, are any of the beams, foundation beams,
So
deteriorated or dry rotted?
the rafters are completely deteriorated and dry rotted, which has led to moisture infiltrating the house for many years. And so until you actually pull back, the siding and can really get your eyes on all of the rafters and floor joists, it's not a definitive yes, but looking at the evidence that we do have, we believe that there's significant deterioration.
Julie, it says that they demolished the garage in November of 14. So what has transpired between the 2014 and now that hasn't, it's been left alone for 6 years. It's going to deteriorate even more. So has there been communication with Mr. Terrell on all that time like y'all usually do?
There has been communication since we opened a new case at the beginning of the year with notices. I know that there's quite a lot of weedy lot liens and environmental cases, so that has occurred over the last 5 years. But there hasn't, prior to us initiating another Building and Standards Commission case, there hasn't been communication on about the condition of the house since the first.
I'd like to add that that's part of your foundation system there, that where your beams and your floor joists and everything to address your question.
That's on the addition, though.
That's on the addition.
Yeah.
No, the existing, it's tough to tell unless you start digging up under there. What we see a lot is that there's a lot of dry rot through experience on other structures. There's a lot of dry rot and sometimes termite damage to those floor joists or the exterior beams, and this is probably going to be typical. There's a lot of dry rot and rain damage around the doors and windows. Also, we see typical with these buildings.
Yeah, you can see it around the soffits too.
Yes.
Looks like. A question, do we issue permits if there's a lien on the building?
Yes, we do.
Why is that?
I don't think we have an ordinance prohibiting it.
What kind of lien are you talking about?
Weedy lot liens.
Yeah.
This property has liens on it.
It looks like 10,000.
And the reason I'm asking that, I was just thinking about maybe proposing an amendment that says if the liens are cleared, we'll give you 90 days to fix it and see if the owner's serious about fixing it. That way he gets gets the property back into compliance with the tax office and makes a commitment to fix it in 90 days. But that shows his willingness to do it because he's going to pay off his liens.
I would recommend that include tax liens as well as
Yeah.
our weedy lot liens.
But that would, to me, it would balance out, are you serious about doing it? Take care of all that and give you an extension.
Well, the first question I would ask, is the building secured?
The addition is pretty easily accessible because of the condition of it.
I couldn't hear you. What are you saying?
Sorry, the addition is pretty easily accessible because of the condition of it. would not take much to.
Because I can tell you from many years of experience, one of the first things that the commission does is request that a building be secured before allowing any additional time. There were many motions made when I was on that committee for a very long time that were, if you were willing to secure the building, that had to be done before any extensions were made to fix it. Because the primary purpose of that committee or that commission is for the safety of the public with these buildings, so people don't trespass on there, get injured, and do that. So I always looked at that as the primary purpose of the commission and its work. And to me, it looks like, I know when I was a kid, I'd have been crawling all over that thing. In that hole and everything, so.
Well, and you can see the holes on the eaves. That is part of the main structure. You can see in the picture on the.
So I would caution if council chooses to do something that we take some steps that building be secured, and if it is not secured, within a reasonable amount of time, that it be demolished for that reason also.
Well, I would ask, just like Jeff asked, how did they get a permit if the building wasn't secured? Like you say, it should have been secured first.
They haven't received a permit.
I thought he said he had.
Well, he pulled a demolition permit, but he's asking for the property to, for the orders to be overturned so that he can actually receive a permit to repair it. Once the Building Standards Commission issues order for demolition, we will only issue a demolition permit. We will not issue a permit to repair.
Was there a time limit requested for the time it would take to fix this?
No, because we did not receive what are the blanking, the repair,
Because there's very
the
specific.
plans.
There's very specific guidelines under, I believe, Mr. Goose, state law that are come into play, whether it's a 30-day request, a 60-day request, and anything, if you go over 90 days, it must be accompanied by written work plans and all of this sort of thing. And so, again, that commission follows very strict guidelines set by state law that not being privy to the actual meeting, it's difficult for me to address, but we would need to keep that in mind as well. I would assume that we have the authority, Mr. Goosh, to, through a change or granting of this, to negate those.
Yes, sir.
State laws?
Your summary of the state law is accurate as well. There are limitations on the amount of time that the Building and Standards Commission can extend time for repair based on whether certain parameters are met, including the extent of damage to the building and the amount of planning that has been done for the preparation, whether a schedule has been presented at the time of the hearing or not. Those regulations don't necessarily apply to this appeal. City Council can choose to extend beyond what those limitations on the Building and Standards Commission are. So if, for example, there was a motion made to amend this resolution to extend for a certain period of time, that is something that council can do.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
In addition, since this structure is more than 50% damaged, any repairs have to be done under current code. Has to be brought up for probably full electrical, plumbing, energy code. I don't know how you're gonna do that. And I don't know if the owner's aware of that it's gonna be a totally different structure than what's there. It's not gonna be just a repair at this point.
Almost a rebuild.
Yes.
How long has this structure been in process through the building and standards? I mean, this didn't just start on November 10th.
So August is
August?
when the first official notification of the building standard proceedings was sent.
Yeah, but the city tore down the garage in November of 2014. It's been 6 years.
And then there's been various environmental violations between 2014 and now.
A motion yet?
No?
Any further discussion from Ms. Fulgram? Questions? Not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve this item as written, which would deny the appeal.
I'm going to second it so we can amend it.
We have a motion and a second on this matter. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bouknight?
Yes, and I just jotted this down, and I want to make sure that it's legally appropriate. So the owner would have 10 business days to clear all weedy lot and tax liens and properly secure the premises. At the end of the 10 days, if the aforementioned conditions are met as agreed by the City of Victoria, the owner shall have 60 days to bring the building into compliance with current building codes.
I think that's pretty clear. I would just ask whether Development Services knows whether those taxes owed are actually subject to a lien at this point. You may simply want to state that the taxes owed as presented in the Building and Standards report so that we have a specific dollar figure. The dollar figures that are in the report show, I'm scrolling here,
About 14,000.
$420.58 worth of taxes owed plus $10,028.61 worth of contract labor liens owed. So my understanding is you're proposing that he needs to pay the sum of those two numbers within 10 business days of this meeting.
Yes. Otherwise, the structure gets demolished. But it gives the owner a chance to show that he's serious about repairing it. He's got to meet his financial obligations that are already on there. And then he can go repair the structure. But it just gives him a 10-day window really to me to think about it, because I think the cost to repair and bring up to current standards would probably make his decision really easy. But I always try to give the owner the benefit as much as possible before the city just demolishes a structure that may have special meaning for them, or they had plans and some fell ill, anything, but just trying to enter a little bit of compassion into the process is all.
I'll second that.
I have no problem with that, because that's what we basically tried to do for the many years I was on that commission.
Yep.
I would, just as a bit of advice, I would encourage Mr. Terrell to visit, if council does vote on this amendment, to get with building tomorrow or the next day and fully understand exactly what has to be done, so that it's clear in your mind what you're facing from a financial standpoint in bringing that building up to code before you get too far into it. That would be my just advice, and it's just friendly advice, I might add. So is there any further discussion? We'll take a...
Well, I want to make sure that we have it worded right and a formal amendment made. I don't think we do that. I'm just rewriting a little bit on the wording Mr. Goosh helped me with. And
I have one
Well, if it's
question.
easier, they can just rescind the motion.
Julie, since there's going to be no CDBG funds to demolish this property, if it gets demolished, does that get added back onto his contract labor line?
So we do have CDBG funds. I just am not sure if this is in an eligible area or if if he would be eligible. So if demolition is something he wishes to pursue instead of repairing it, he could apply for that program. And code enforcement does pass on that program to almost every single Building Standards Commission case.
Because you have no one there under the CDBG, but I
Oh, then it's
think
not
that
an
area-
ineligible
Yeah, I
area.
think that area is in CDBG area.
There's a sliver or slice of our southeast area of town that you would feel very much should be CDBG eligible, but it's not. And I think it's really related to census participation rather than income
Yeah,
levels.
no.
And so, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot they were checking that.
Yeah,
So it's
it
not an
doesn't-
eligible area.
Right.
And the other thing I have to ask, this is just procedural and point of order. Is it all right to ask Mr. Terrell?
If the council would like to open the floor to hear from Mr. Terrell, the mayor certainly can do that.
I have no problem with it.
I mean, if we can work out a solution right now, and it's either, no, it's not something I'm interested in, or not, then, I mean, might save some time.
Sounds like common sense.
The first thing I want to try to clear up here, when that garage, when they told me, when I found out about the garage, they told me what was wrong with the garage to bring it up to code. I went to the city and I pulled out a permit to fix the garage. That garage was sitting on a concrete slab. It's not really built into the house. It was put against the house and it was board put in between and it looked like it was separating. I pulled out a permit to repair that. I live in Houston, Texas. I drove back down here within a week. The garage was demolished. And I put my signs on there like I was supposed to, and I was wondering what happened to the garage. Then they put a lien against it, and I said, how did they demolish the garage when y'all gave me a permit to repair the garage? Okay, when they moved that garage, that portion that you see, they boarded that up. I didn't. Whoever demolished it did that. And that was a back porch. And I was trying to get everybody to understand, they're showing all the pictures of that how it's all decrepit in there and stuff. That's in that back porch where they left it exposed when they pulled the garage that opened the roof up. And all that, they're not showing the pictures inside the house where the floor and all that stuff is still fine. And all I wanted to do, and I think I shouldn't be liable for a lien against me for them taking a perfect two-car garage. And it wasn't, the garage was fine. If you look at the original picture, it wasn't nothing wrong with the garage. It would just look like it was separating from the house. Why they tore it off before I got back, I don't know. And they charged me for it, and I had my permits and everything. Okay, so going forward, but it been raining in it. That section is the only part in that house, and I had it locked up. I did all the boarding up. They can't get in there. And that's been there. I did screws, that stuff been in there. Inside that house, the rest of the house, there's not where you see rain coming in and all that stuff. That's not going on in the rest of that house. When you come in through the front door, where the front door is, all that stuff is still. I had Hercules to come out there, and ARP Remodeling Service has been out there. They the one went up on it, went there and checked that roof out. And I have an estimate here showing they want to replace certain rafters, bring it up to code and all of that. They came out and looked at that. And they're not going to put a roof on that house if the foundation's messed up. They checked the piers. Now that part they're showing deterioration where that was, that is not even part of the house, it's the porch. All they did was added that on. I want to remove that off and bring the house back to the original, close it back up. You see the gable going there, chop that off, close that back up. And the rest of the house, all the doors are closing fine. Hercules said there's nothing wrong with it.
Mr. Terrell, and just with the 5 minutes we gave you to speak,
Okay.
I just had one question really to ask you. Would you be agreeable to us making an amendment to give you 10 business days to clear all the taxes owed and contract labor liens owed and properly secure the premises? And at the end of those 10 days, if those conditions are met, you'll have 60 days to bring the building into compliance with current building codes. And if it's not in compliance, either after the 10 days or after the 60, the building shall be demolished.
Okay, one question. I have a problem with, I don't have a problem with paying the liens on the mowing the grass stuff. But for that garage, I don't think I should have to pay for them demolishing that garage when they shouldn't have demolished it. When they told me that I can repair it, and it shouldn't have been demolished. I had shingles and all that stuff in it. They demolished the garage. I shouldn't be charged for that.
I can't answer for that. and,
Okay, but, okay, I can't afford, I'm being honest with you, I can't afford to pay that amount right now. But for bringing it up, making it safe, I can do that, okay? But for the taxes, okay, I'm paying taxes now. They got me on a payment plan, the city. I'm paying that monthly like they told me to. Okay, the current taxes on that house right now is coming due, it's like 400 and something.
Right.
Okay, so answer to your question, I'm not gonna be able to pay $10,000 on liens against that house. Now, I can pay on the grass part of it, but for the garage part, I was told that they're looking into it, trying to figure out what happened. The city don't know why and how that happened, how that they demolished that and charged me when I had a permit to come back less than a week, and my permit was good for 90 days. In less than a week, and I had all that boarded up and closed up. And I just think it's unfair to me that that happened.
Okay.
You know, and I got, like I say, I don't want the house torn down. But if it has to be torn down financially, I'd rather do it myself and have it done. You know, if it has to be done. I have no problem with that. But I've tried, I done went and had the foundation checked and had the roof and everything checked. And the people they can say the house can be salvageable. It's not falling down, it's on piers. And I done had bona fide people to check it. And I got documentation says nothing wrong with it. It just looked bad, I agree. But if it got to be demolished, I'd rather do it myself.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. It sounds like it wouldn't matter if we made that amendment or not. It wouldn't get done.
Mr. Bogdan, can I just ask for some clarification, just for everyone
Yes,
around
sir.
the table? You just said if we made that amendment or not. I think I agree with Councilman Scott. She seconded what we thought was your motion. Did you not intend to make that motion? Were you just describing a motion that we might make?
I was describing a motion we might make because looking at how the resolution's written, there's not a good place to put that type of wording in there, and that's why I asked you to make sure it was worded properly before I did something.
Understood. Okay, so
Because
we do not.
it almost seemed like we need to take away the first motion and make a new motion to do something totally different.
Very good. Then I misunderstood what you were saying at that time, and it sounds, Mayor, as if we do not have a motion to amend on the floor.
Not yet.
So we have a motion and a second from Jan Scott
Right.
and Jeff Bognai to approve as written, is where we currently stand procedurally. Thank you. I just wanted to clear that up.
Is there any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, I'll call a vote on the original motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the next item, please.
Item E2 is a resolution approving various contracts for the mowing of city-owned properties in the cumulative amount of $283,285.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to take you through a process that we started in July. It's going to get a little confusing, but I promise at the end, it'll be much easier to understand. So in July, the city manager and assistant city manager, Mike Etienne, came to me talking about how we keep up with the mowing around the city. It became an issue because we had some lots that needed to be mowed here and there. And so you're calling one director and saying, hey, is this yours? No. And so we needed to figure out a better way to do this. And so we started the process of taking a look at all of the city properties that we own and what's the best way to address that going forward. This is what it originally looked like. So you had environmental services who had right-of-way mowing people. We had flood buyout lots. We had the environmental services facilities. You had Main Street, which is being mowed by mostly parks. You have Public Works that has water wells and all those types of things. And then you had fire taking care of fire facilities. This is a list of kind of the contractors that were doing the work. So Main Street was done by Parks Department. Public Works had very popular ground effects, Lawn Star. Parks had ground effects, very popular, WW Services. Fire had ground effects, fire staff, Parks Department. So as you can see, I mean, we had people just going everywhere. Everybody was responsible for their own little niche, but we were using a lot of the same contractors. And so as I looked at that and worked with Mr. Etienne, and we kind of went through, we thought there's got to be a better way to do this. So let's put these in blocks. And so I'm going to skip ahead. This is a block. This is part of the environmental services. Yes, this is part of the environmental services block. So what we did was we said, okay, environmental services is all of these properties. These are all flood buyout lots. Used to be mowed by environmental services. We bid these out last year. So Public Works has a block that covers all of the water wells, all of the lift stations, all of the different places that they have around town. You have the Parks Department now only covers a few areas, not city parks. And I want to be very clear on that. What is under parks is actually mowing of the business district out by Caterpillar, the city-owned property out there. Lone Tree Park, I believe. Yes, Lone Tree Industrial Park. So that's under parks. Plus, we have the 2 park cemeteries that are under parks. So when we say parks, we're not talking about city parks. City Parks Department still mows the city parks, but we contracted out those others. When we talk about the fire department, that's all of the firehouses in town, plus the fire training facility that they have out on Southwest Bend Jordan. When we talk about facilities, that's your surface water treatment plant, your sewer plant, your solid waste building, those types of things. And then Main Street is taking over all of Main Street. So that's 700 Main and City Hall, Library, Street of 10 Friends. And so we put those in blocks to try and make it make more sense. So you've got Public Works under Public Works block. You've got facilities, which fire now falls under facilities because it's all of the facilities, the city facilities. Then you've got environmental, which is all the flood buyout lots. Environmental had a few drainage areas. Those have been moved over to Public Works because that's a Public Works line of business, not necessarily a environmental line of business. And so what we've gone from is this to now this. Much simpler. So we have one point of contact at the city for all city mowing. We have 3 contractors for all of the city properties, except for some major drainage ditches and except for Loop 463. All the other city properties go to 3 contracts that I'm asking you to approve tonight. All of those contracts have, and in those contracts, you'll see that in order to get paid, they have to take a picture before and after and be sent in. Now, fire department's still responsible to make sure that the fire department gets mowed. But my department, Clarissa, who will head this up in my department.
He's got to send in pictures too, though.
They do. His contractor will send us pictures, but we can make Tracy get out there if we need to. But we will not pay, and all payments will be made through my office. Now, money will still be budgeted in individual budgets, but this spreadsheet we have created, and this is a spreadsheet that we created, so what you see on here is funding from last year. Once this is approved tonight, all of the new blocks will be updated with the current information, and you'll see you've got the name of the right-of-way or lot that needs to be mowed, a description of the property. Under the description of the property, we talk about how many cycles. Each cycle is how many times it gets mowed. Weed eating, we talk about how many times it gets weed eated, how many times it gets herbicided. We put the funding area. We'll have the company that's responsible for, the contractor who's responsible for mowing that, the contract term and date, the PO number that's attached to that for each block, the type of mowing. So this is all fine mowing, so we expect it to be mowed, weed eated, herbicide. You have some rough mowing, which is like most of your drainage ditches, that type of mowing. Then you have the price per cycle. So we'll put in there each time they mow, we know exactly what to pay them. And then the number of cycles. The one thing that we hope to, well, the multiple things we hope to accomplish. One is it's going to make it a lot easier for us to keep up with what's going on. Because we have a single point of contact. And so if the mayor's driving through town and he sees a lot that looks bad, it's one phone call, not, oh, that's not mine, that's not mine. It's very simple to figure that out. Two is the fact that as we go through this, we have some lots that are being mowed enough. We have some lots that are not being mowed enough. By us keeping track of it going forward through this spreadsheet, when I come to you with the budget, I'm going to be able to tell you, look, we're going to have to increase public works mowing at water well such and such 9 and 10 or whatever because they don't get mowed enough. But over here, we may be able to decrease mowing at the fire station because it gets mowed too many times. And there's sometimes during the winter we're mowing just dry grass. And so we'll be able to come up with a better plan going forward for the city that, one, keeps our properties looking good, also gives us better, I guess, we're more fiscally responsible about what we're spending and what we're getting done. We're keeping better track of who we're paying to do it and that it's actually getting done when it's supposed to get done. Because if you call me and say, hey, we really need to be mowed, first thing we're going to do is pull that up and say, you're out of mowings for the year. I understand it needs to be mowed, but let me see where I got some money where we can cover that. Next year, though, we need to add those mowings. And so hopefully I've kind of taken you from start to finish, and I'll answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
I'm having difficulty with your definition of cycle, because reading this chart, I'm seeing that you're going to pay $1,377 to mow 107 East Basin once, and you're going to do that 18 times. So I'm having trouble with that.
That $1,377 is actually for all of those properties. That's for the year.
Okay, that's
for that property for the year.
Okay. That's what I thought.
So that would be your 18 mowings and your weed eating and your herbiciding.
Okay.
One question that's not related to mowing, it might, on some of the, I know the water wells, because I did report one because someone approached me about it next to their property. And some of those water wells are within a fenced area.
Yes, sir.
And stuff. Has anyone ever explored the possibility of taking within that fence and taking that out and putting like a layer of crushed concrete or something in there that would keep it from needing to be mowed? Because it can be done. We do that a lot of times in service yards around buildings and stuff, and it saves a lot of maintenance over time.
Honestly, Mayor, I believe I went out and looked at the one that you called about. Underneath that grass is gravel. So some of these just haven't been upkept the way they should, and we hope to fix that going forward with this process.
But I mean, if you put enough crushed concrete is what I like, because it's not dusty and it compacts pretty good. It's a little bit better than, but you still have to, from time to time, go out and do a little work.
You still have to weed eat around the fence. We still have to mow. The fence doesn't go all the way to the property line. So there still is mowing that needs to be done outside the fence. But there are some in town that have the crushed rock. It's just gotten away from us. And that's our goal here, is to get these back under control. And by moving them in to our department, and one point of contact in the city rather than everyone trying, the scattered shotgun approach. We're hoping to make that more of an easier process and much easier for us to keep up with as we go forward.
I think you're on the right track. I mean, you got to get it under control first and then explore what you can do over time to make it less maintenance if possible.
And this all rolls into the beautification aspect that we're already working on. That's the big key to our department right now. And so this is just, it makes sense to roll this into our department and let us head this up.
Your efforts are being noticed, and I get a lot of comments about it.
And I just want to briefly add too that a big part of why Environmental Services and Darrell is involved is because Community Appearance Division that we created this past fiscal year is under Darrell's direction. So that's why he's slowly but surely getting more plugged in with a lot of these elements that touch community appearance. And when we created community appearance and put it under environmental service, it was really a shift of a right-of-way crew that was with parks that we shifted over to environmental services. And so this is all just part of the original vision of the creation of community appearance to try and hone in and be more deliberate and intentional with what we're doing with maintenance.
Well, I think it's a great system that you've developed, and I especially like that you're able to evaluate it going forward and see where places need more or less attention.
Darrell,
Yes,
these
ma'am.
are 7-month contracts?
No, ma'am. These are a 7-year or 5-year contract, and then we have the ability to roll them over for 2 additional years.
Because if you're looking at the contract date, it says 3/1/2020 to 11.
This is the old, what's on the screen is old. This is
Okay.
not current, this is not the current
Okay.
contracts that you have in front of you.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the current, this is off the current spreadsheet we built now. I wanted to show it to you filled out so you'd understand all the information we want to put in there going forward. This will all be wiped clean and the new contracts will be installed in here.
Okay.
But I thought it was important that when I brought it to you, you see how the spreadsheet was put together and how we plan on tracking it.
Okay.
If I showed you a bunch of blanks, it just wouldn't maybe make as much sense.
Okay. And can you explain just a little bit, herbicide currently done by Community Appearance?
So I have a herbicide crew, and we do several streets. We do all the concrete outfalls that need herbicide. So like in front of the mall, behind the community center. When Public Works cleans those out, my crew, I have a spray truck as part of the community appearance crew, so they come out and spray that. I can spray, I've got the boom sprayer and then we've got wand sprayers. And so currently we do a lot of that with these contracts. They will be doing those. They'll be double weed eating at first while 2 of them work on their licenses. But once their licenses are complete, they will take over the herbiciding.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that the efforts, I received an email, I'm not sure if it was copied to council, from the people at the mall thanking the city for their efforts in cleaning up in and around the mall. So, like I said, it's being noticed, and I'm glad to see that there's a concerted effort.
I will take this chance to plug, we do have a KVB/City of Victoria cleanup at the mall this weekend, 7:30. A meeting in the Target parking lot to pick up Loop 463, and then the board from Keep Victoria Beautiful will be planting the new flower bed on the south side of Loop 463, directly across the street from Cimarron. So you're all invited to come.
The money to keep working, so. Thank you.
I move we approve the various contracts for mowing.
Second.
The motion is second on item E2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Item E3 is a resolution ratifying a minor construction contract with J&R Contracting Services Incorporated for the Country Club Drive Emergency Sanitary Sewer Line Replacement in the amount of $115,430.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Mine's not as exciting as the mowing. Another sewer collapse we had over on Country Club between Magruder and Navarro. It's between two manholes. Like this thing go, there's a location. It's about 390 feet, it's 12-inch concrete sewer. We're replacing it between two manholes. It's about 10 feet deep. We had 3 quotes, J&R Contracting Services, Mercer Construction Company, and Cruise Tech. J&R Contracting Services is the one we recommend, and they've already started work. They've already done the locates. They're in the process of securing the materials. This is a ratification of their contract. We expect them to begin very soon. Like I said, they've already started securing, but I believe Monday is when they want to start. And then it'll take them till, they're expecting late December, but they've typically gotten the construction done much quicker than they typically say. Dry weather, I think, did this one in.
Well,
Saturday didn't help?
No, that made it worse. It's that switch, but it's been so dry that those lines just, they hate the dry weather. And then they hate real wet weather, so they don't really like either one, but dry got this one.
indicative of aging infrastructure.
Correct. And one thing I'll just point out that as we get into our CIP, we've done with our crews and Daryl Seibert, our engineer, they've come together and developed us probably the top 20 of water lines and sewer lines that are in need of repair that are in this kind of condition. So we'll be bringing those forward in a CIP, but this was one we knew we had on our radar, and we have some others, but we're just crossing our fingers on the other ones.
I move we adopt item E3.
Second.
Motion is second on item E3. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
That, I think, it completes our action items. We'll move into city manager's report.
Yes, sir. We have only
Have a
one
minute real quick.
Oh, yes, sir.
One thing we didn't mention at the beginning of the meeting is the reverse lighted parade. Is this Friday, this Saturday?
Saturday. Yes, that's a great point. You want to hit on that, Mike?
And also
Well,
the tree.
yeah,
on
so
Friday.
true. So the virtual tree lighting ceremony is taking place Friday at 6 p.m. And so we encourage the public to tune in on Facebook for that. We obviously thank HEB, our main sponsor, for that. The tree has been up. This week it's been off, but last week it was on with just lights. What's pretty neat about it is that it actually plays music and has a light show attached to it. And so part of what we hope to show off at Friday's tree lighting ceremony is have the first show kick off. And we do plan on the show part of the tree taking place at every 30-minute mark beginning on Friday. And so we obviously encourage the public to, at their pace and on their own time, to come and check out the Christmas tree after Friday. And so that's going on Friday. On Saturday, I don't want to mess that one up. So hopefully Mike has the exact details on the reverse parade that I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, so we have on Saturday the reverse parade, and it's at 6 o'clock, and that's at Riverside Park, and we've publicized it. It's on the city Facebook, and I think we have flyers being distributed as well. So we want everyone to come and participate. So the reverse parade essentially will have individuals on different stations, but people can drive through the park, but the parade I guess they will be stationary, and individuals can walk through or drive through the park to see the different, stations or floats. So
Stationary floats.
Stationary floats. So
They're
we're
still
looking
floating.
forward. What?
They're still floating.
Still floating. But that's the intent. So again, that's Saturday, and we have gotten positive feedback on it because other cities are doing it. So again, Friday, 6 o'clock is the tree lighting ceremony, and that will include the lighting of the lights downtown on the buildings. So that's going to be great. And then Saturday is the parade.
And I believe Saturday night, after the reverse parade at 9 p.m., we'll have fireworks taking place at Riverside Park. This is probably a one-off event. These were actually the fireworks that were scheduled to take place on July 4th that we had to cancel due to COVID, and so we figured let's just put them on Saturday.
Is there a recommendation on where people might park or the distance that they'd be able to see these fireworks? Because obviously you can't get everybody parked in the park.
We can send that to you offline so that it's not a very crowded spot.
We do have a map that shows where the entrance is and where individuals can park. So we'll be sure to get that to you. But City Council does have a float. So I know the mayor has asked for that, that we have a float, but you do have a float, so hopefully we'll see you there.
Are we going to have hot chocolate?
We can work on that too.
They spoiled us, you know.
we are now.
They've spoiled us.
You want pan dulce too?
Oh,
That works?
yeah.
Thank you,
churros.
Mr. Garza.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for
Okay.
reminding us about it.
I have one
appreciate
more
it.
reminder. I was talking to Lana yesterday, and she was saying that on December the 12th, they're going to have stations around the plaza where they'll be giving out to the kids the gingerbread houses and other items that you have to go to around the whole square, and each corner is going to have something for the kids. So I thought that was neat, because, you know, I've never done a gingerbread house, but I think I'll do one this year.
You could, and then you can eat it with your hot chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So I think we're ready for Derek. Right? Okay. So Derek's going to hit on providing an update on the work that the Broadband Commission has been doing over the last several months.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time. I know I'm the only thing standing between you and whatever show you might be watching comfortably on your couch after this. But so I'll try to be concise, but complete. If I can get the slide to change. There we go. Just as a reminder, we did form sort of a working group or a stakeholders group of entities that represent government, healthcare, education, and economic development agencies that work in Victoria and in the agencies surrounding us. We are appreciative to all of those groups because they've all had a representative and they've all attended faithfully the missions and the work, and given feedback in and out of those meetings. And so we've been very grateful for their support and their help and their engagement in something they seem to clearly want as well. So. We also want to thank several elected officials who have participated from your own group. We have Mayor McCoy and Councilman Lofgren. From the Texas legislature, both Jeannie Morrison and Lois Colcourse have representatives in the meetings as well. And Michael Cloud's office has been in attendance. And every one of these individuals, particularly at the state and federal level, have reached out and given feedback outside of the commission meetings as well. And so they've been very engaged and very helpful. And so we're grateful to them. The last group we want to make sure we acknowledge their support and their work is the Connected Nation group that we have a partnership with. You all may remember approving a contract where these guys are going to support the commission and provide information and feedback, and they've done a great job of being able to speak to and inform the technical aspects of things that I didn't understand even before those conversations. They assisted with our RFP development. The commission wrote essentially collectively and collaboratively a request for proposals, and Connected Nation helped provide some feedback and some technical language that makes sure that we are speaking the same language as the people we'd like to have submit proposals for this process. And then finally, once we do receive our proposals, they will help us in evaluating and making sure that what is being proposed is in fact a right fit for our community. So, as you're aware, there are two challenges that we really are trying to address and deal with in this effort. And one is access, or what the Census Bureau refers to as the supply side of the equation. In that, in Victoria, 71% or so of the population has access to a regular internet subscription, but nearly 30% does not. And a full quarter of those have no access, whether it's a pay-as-you-go plan or a smartphone plan or even a dial-up connection. The second problem that we are seeking to address relates to what the Census Bureau calls the demand side of the equation, and that is adoption. Whether it's for price, whether it's for hardware availability or digital literacy and understanding how to connect and work with the internet, we have a large percentage of our population that has chosen or for whatever reason not subscribed or set themselves up to be connected even when the access is available. And so those are the two challenges that we're going to be working to try to address with whatever development partner we find. The third challenge that we hope to improve upon is that of speed. In 2015, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, set a minimum standard of 25 megabytes per second as a download speed and 3 megabytes per second upload speed. What COVID has shown us is that when a student tries to participate in a full classroom full of other students on Zoom while mom and dad are working from home, 25 megabytes per second is just not enough. We've seen that in some of our meetings when we've had a larger turnout in some of the digital connections and the quality of the connections. What you'll see in these maps that's shown here is that at a minimum, we look like we're doing pretty well. One thing I want to make sure I'm clear on is that the darker shade of green is a detailed plotting provided by Connected Nation, resulting from surveys they did of providers in the area. The lighter shade of green is the FCC mapping. Now, the FCC does this a little differently. If one house in that census tract has access to internet, the whole census tract gets shaded. So that's not all that helpful. But fortunately, we do have that partnership with Connected Nation that lends this to us. And these maps are all available online as well. But you'll see as we move up the spectrum and we start to get what we would consider a sufficient speed. Again, 25.3 was probably sufficient in 2015, but not as much today with all that we do online and all we're trying to do just this year. But as you go up the spectrum, you start to see access and availability of that data, of those speeds, just virtually disappear. This also takes no account for reliability or the consistency of the connectivity. It's just simply, is it available one time when we decided to test it? So, trying to solve these problems is not unique to Victoria. The governor created the Broadband Development Council, and they recently released a report to the legislature with the intent to make some recommendations and provide some examples of best practices and how to make broadband available across the state. The first recommendation was to create a state broadband plan. Texas is one of 6 states in the nation that does not have a broadband plan currently. So we want to correct that. Second is to establish a state broadband office. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had some calls with the Public Utilities Commission to talk about how they regulate and what processes they use to regulate telecommunications providers, particularly as it relates to internet. Many of their practices are still sort of based on the phones and the lines and the way things used to be done. And they haven't caught up and updated these things. Further, if you're, what we learned is if a provider tells you that they're going to be putting a line in for voice communications and voice only, they get one process. If they tell you they're doing data communications and internet only, they get another process. But if they tell you they're doing a combo, they get a third process. And no one ever checks to see if they're actually doing what they said. So they just pick the easiest process and then do what they want. And so that state broadband office is really, in the recommendation, is aimed at finding a place for that to live and finding something that really makes that make sense and do a quality assurance piece of that. And then finally, developing a state broadband funding program is a strong recommendation because there's a litany of federal funds and some state funds that are used to target broadband initiatives, particularly in rural areas and underserved areas. But there is no aggregation of those, and there's no, like we see with CDBG, where there's sort of in one place where you can find all that funding, and that doesn't exist today. Further, the Texas Universal Service Fund that was created to ensure that rural communities had phone lines is still limited only to phone lines, and because of the mechanisms that they use to fund that particular vehicle, it's not sufficient even today to fund phone lines, much less broadband upgrades. So that's along with the recommendations, and you'll be able to, you can read all of the report online if you'd like. Now, there are some best practices, and for me, this part was actually kind of reassuring, because their first best practice they listed was form a stakeholder committee. And so we got one of those. And then they talked about having policy framework, and they said, make sure that the local communities are engaged in the planning developments and the aspects of having a policy for making broadband accessible and making it easier for these things to be installed and improved. With planning and capacity building, the state wants to make sure that they're supporting local and regional efforts. This is aimed largely at the regional planning commissions and making sure that the several counties are being served, and those planning efforts are just like we've done with streets and MPOs and other things, doing it with internet and connectivity. And then finally, the funding operations, or funding and operations is meant to sort of they recommend a hybrid approach of grants, a combination of loans and grants, and loans for those providers that would like to put those things in. And so from a best practice standpoint, they recommend sort of dividing into those three categories and make the funding available. And then finally, program evaluation evolution is make it a living, breathing thing, and make sure that, unlike the phone services, we can continue to grow and evolve with technology in the way we manage these things. So all of that leads us to our request for proposals and our development that we've created. So we are seeking a development partner to essentially implement 3 phases. One is an evaluation of our existing capacity for connectivity. We want to know what do we have, what are we missing, and what will our current infrastructure support. The second phase is determining a feasibility for an enhanced network. One, from a what can we build, and 2, from a what do people want. Determining what are the needs of the community, and looking at developing a network architecture program that tells us what our network should look like and what that might be. Is it a series of small cell nodes broadcasting 5G? Is it a fiber ring around the city? What does that network look like? And what could we conceivably do for our community? So that's step 2. And then finally, step 3 is provide an implementation strategy, essentially a business plan. If we build it, how do we build it? How do we fund it? How do we make it work? How do we ensure that we keep up with technological improvements and advancements as we go forward? Also, who's responsible for what? We're looking for a development partner. We have our Broadband Commission, and in each entity that's in there that wants to be engaged, where are those responsibilities? That should always be spelled out in phase 3. And then ideally, we would find a development partner that's also capable of beginning construction and moving forward on whatever we need, whatever we decide is the correct approach for this. So that's kind of what we're asking people to give us a proposal on how they might achieve that if they were our development partner. The process for that, technically as of yesterday, it says today, but we did get it published yesterday that this RFP is active and out there, and we have a number of people who have or will be receiving it directly in their inboxes. And in one case, Representative Morrison actually spoke on a video with the Texas Tribune, and she mentioned the Victoria Broadband Commission in this project. And then I got a couple of phone calls from providers who said, please send us that RFP right afterwards. So, if nothing else, we're grateful for that kind of publicity and that help. So then we have a question submission deadline for anyone who's interested in doing, that seeks clarification. That's January 8th. We will hold an optional pre-proposal conference for anyone that is considering proposing or submitting a proposal on February 3rd. And yes, ironically, we will be holding a pre-proposal conference on how to improve the internet over the internet. So that'll be a Zoom thing. But then our submission window will close February 18th. After that time, we will work with the Victoria Broadband Commission and Connected Nation to review those submissions. We'll select likely a few of those respondents and ask them to participate in interviews with the Victoria Broadband Commission and potentially with you all if we feel like that's necessary or warranted. And then the Broadband Commission will make a recommendation to City Council on who they think the best development partner is for this group, for this community. And then ideally, if you all select that development partner, then we move forward into construction in those 3 phases. So, in short, we are seeking a development partner to solve the problems of internet access and adoption. We'd like to provide broadband services that are available, reliable, and affordable. We will be opening those submissions on February 18th, and we have set up a resource online at the city's website at victoriatx.gov/broadband for any and all information. Everything you've seen in the slideshow will be included on that site along with the RFP. And we will be available to answer questions, particularly through January 8th for anyone interested in proposing. Are there any questions I can answer for any of you?
Great, it's exciting.
Sorely needed.
Well, thank you all for your help and for your support. I know this has sometimes resulted in some long and technical conversations, but we appreciate it. So,
Summarized that very well.
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Those are all the city manager's reports we have for this evening, Mayor.
All right, I think that concludes our business this evening, so I will now adjourn.